Hello, everyone, and welcome to another rendition of our EDscursion Live from the Field series. I'm Sarah Falkowski. I'm the Education Coordinator at Rookery Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve in Naples, Florida. A few housekeeping things before we get started. You'll notice that this is a webinar format, which means that we are not able to see or hear you, but we know you're out there. So we want you to communicate with us by using the chat box if there's something that you're having difficulty with, whether it's a customer service, program registration type question, or you can't see us, or it's pixelated on your end, you can't hear us, let us know there. If you would like to ask a question of the panel today, you can actually use the Q&A box, which is located at the bottom of your screen. When you click there, you can type in a question you would like to be answered. And if someone else has already written a question, you have the opportunity to upvote by clicking the thumbs up symbol right next to the question. That will help us on the back end prioritize in case we get more questions than we have time to answer. We'll answer the ones with the most votes because we know that's what you want to hear about the most. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to introducing the team. So we are here today to meet the Mangroves, and you're joined by the entire education team. And we have Dita O'Boyle on, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what to expect today. Go ahead, Dita.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are and where we are. So let's look at Rookery Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve. So we are part of a national network. So there are 29, almost 30 national estuarine research reserves, which is so exciting. We're found all around the country where there are estuaries, and Florida's a pretty amazing place because there's 3 of them down here. Now we do have a state partner. So our national partner is NOAA, and our state partner is the Department of Environmental Protection. And there's a lot of different types of protected areas that fall under DEP. And in total, it protects about 4 million acres statewide. So it's a pretty impressive amount of land that gets preserved and protected. And Rookery Bay in particular, we have 110,000 acres. And during this summer series of excursions, we are planning to take you all around the reserve and talk about different areas that you can go out and explore on your own time. So in these boundaries of 110,000 acres, we start south of downtown Naples around the Gordon River, go around Marco Island and into the 10,000 islands. So that's a lot of submerged land and a fair amount of uplands too as well that we are protecting. That big yellow star is our learning center, and we are currently open to the public. And here is a lovely video clip from a documentary that is on PBS, the Mangrove Coast, talking about what Rookery Bay is.
Rookery Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve is a partnership between the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and NOAA. And it's really set up to enable long-term conservation, research, and education of this estuary. Rookery Bay was set aside 40 years ago now as a living laboratory to study how mangrove ecosystems function and also to protect this really unique ecosystem. And through the efforts of grassroots conservation, through the 60s and up through today, we're actually able to have this place set aside so it'll be there in perpetuity. So generations of families can actually enjoy these resources and also use them as well. As you educate people, they understand how important this resource is, and they actually will take personal ownership and stake in stewardship in protecting this resource. And the more you learn about it, the more they come back and protect it. We are stewards. We have been given the responsibility to protect these areas so they will persist forever.
Little introduction into Rookery Bay with some amazing footage of areas that we cannot quite show you today. So we do have a mission statement for our reserve. It is to serve the Southwest Florida as a trusted resource for science-based information to foster connected human and ecological communities. So we want humans and nature to both thrive. And through meeting this mission, we hope to see the communities in Southwest Florida value nature and prosper in concert with healthy estuaries. So allowing people to enjoy the outdoors and also keep our estuaries nice and healthy because they're pretty darn important. And there's a lot of different ways they are important. If you have some ideas, you can throw them quickly in the chat if you'd like. And in this image, you can see a very nice example of our estuaries down here in Florida. Those are some lovely big bunches of mangroves, giving you a little bit of time to put answers in the chat. Okay, so we have food chain. I'm sure they're going to come in as I start going through the slides, so don't be shy about putting them back in there as well. So our first reason why they're important does have to do with that food chain. So estuaries are extremely productive thanks to all that leaf litter falling into the water that breaks down into detritus and becomes that important part of the food chain. And also we get all those nutrients being flushed in from the ocean, but also from the land. So it's an area where there's a lot of food for animals to grow. And also estuaries do provide us protection from storms. In this wonderful video, you can see all that wave action on the left-hand side that was mimicking, let's say, a hurricane or tropical storm. As soon as it hits those mangroves built on oysters, the wave action gets a little bit less, the wind slows down, so they actually help protect our coastline. And they provide a huge habitat for different animals. And that's why a lot of animals use our area as a nursery. And yes, that is a baby sea turtle on the bottom left, if you're wondering what that is, scurrying down to the water's edge. And the animals that live here can be from pinfish to little gobies, all the way up to threatened and endangered animals, such as those sea turtles, the sawfish pictured below, and also least terns. And today we are going to be focusing on mangroves and how amazing they are as a habitat. So I am going to share with you a Google Earth presentation and take you to where my team is, because this again is a place you can go to explore mangroves. And what I'm going to direct you to do is if you go on Collier Boulevard heading south, past where it crosses 41 and keep going down, eventually you are going to be looking for a road called Shell Island Road. And I apologize if I do, hopefully no one gets seasick by watching these motions. So just a heads up, it is kind of fun how it zooms in and out. But so Shell Island Road, you're going to be looking for this little green sign, and it's going to take you down this wonderful road where you can see a lot of different habitats actually. And when you're on this road, you do want to drive fairly slowly because there can be a variety of wildlife here, from gopher tortoises, raccoons, deer, maybe a panther if you're one of the lucky ones, as you travel through this wonderful scrub habitat. And those gopher tortoises I mentioned, they will often feed along vegetation on the sides of the road. And as they are slow movers, very good reason to go slowly, take your time, look at them. You can see little baby ones or larger adults. And this is a fairly long road because you are going to take it slow. And one thing you can do when you're driving down this road is notice that the vegetation will change. It's very, very, very subtle. But when you start going down Shell Island Road, you're very, very clearly going to be in some dry scrub habitat. It's uplands, it's generally pretty dry, really fire dependent. But even in this image, you're going to notice the vegetation is going to start changing. It's going to be shifting from that scrub habitat to some plants that can survive with a little bit more salt water. So at this point, we have passed Briggs Boardwalk and then FWC office, and now you are at our Shell Island Road dorm and research building. And so this area is where we have visiting researchers or scientists stay, and also where our eco tours go out of, our boat tours. So you just keep on going past here, all the way down to the end of Shell Island Road. There is very limited parking, but there is parking there. So do recommend you get there in early. Also help you avoid the storms. And once you park, you're gonna have some nice access to mangroves. So this is kind of opposite the parking lot. This is a great place if you have a small motorized boat or kayaks, a great place to launch to get into our estuaries and explore those mangroves. But right here, you can see there's a path going along the edge of these mangroves. Now, I do warn you that at a high tide, this water does come fairly up, so your feet could get wet. But when you walk down this path, here's a nice overview of that walking path. You're gonna go through all these mangroves. Depending on the time of year, there could be some bugs. And when you get to the very tip, you have a nice open access to our estuary. Great place to fish and get up close and personal with those mangroves. So let's see what our field cam is doing, because they are located right here.
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can everyone see and hear me?
You're kind of frozen.
All right. So if everyone can
but we
see,
can hear you.
okay. So if I'm kind of frozen, I'm going to let everything just kind of settle out here. We do have some boat action in the background, some wonderful recreational fishermen. And an osprey. Oh my gosh, and we're seeing some osprey fishing. This is so exciting. And we even have some recreational fishermen coming down the path as we speak. So if everyone can still hear and see me, Sarah and Dita, am I still frozen?
You are good. You are animated.
Okay, love to see it. So welcome everyone, good morning. This is our first EDscursion of the summer. And the whole theme of this summer's EDscursions are going to be rediscovering Rookery Bay. That's why we really harped on who we are, where we are today. That's why Dita showed you the nice path to get down here so that you can enjoy this for yourself after this program is over. So we actually have some people recreating here right now. That's so cool. But I'm here, I'm Morgan. I'm from the education team here at Rookery Bay, and I'm joined by two of my fellow educators. I've got Janine here. She's talking with our wonderful patrons of the monument area we're at. And also our intern Aubrey for the summer is joining us here today. Hi. And we are just doing our best to fight off some of the mosquitoes and the heat, because as we know here in Southwest Florida, man, is it a hot summer and it has started. So we are here to meet the mangroves. And in addition to meeting the mangroves, we want to harp on the fact that you guys can come here and enjoy this for yourself. So public access points within the reserve is going to be the theme across the whole summer. So let's get right into it. So we actually started by going into the mangroves, and we're going to stream to you from all the way in there, okay? Which just wasn't going to work because, you know, signal. But look around. I mean, we are just surrounded by all of these mangroves. The Rookery Bay estuary is one of the largest continuous mangrove forests in the entire world, stretching from here to the Keys. I mean, if that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what will. but you can just tell we are surrounded by them. They're thick, they're well grown, and there are actually leaves here. Ooh, and there's some leaves. And I want to quiz my audience here today. Before we really get into the nitty gritty of our mangroves and really get into it, I want to say, do you all know what 3 types of mangroves are? Dita, I believe you're screen sharing.
Yes, I just pulled it up so they can see a little bit more of what is behind you.
Okay, so if our video's not great, thank you for doing that. All right, so 3 types of mangroves. I want everyone to put it in the chat box what they think they are. All right.
Morgan, while the chat box is populating, if you guys want to turn off the field camera for a second, it might kind of recollect as people are thinking, and that way we can hear you better.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Am I seeing any guesses? Dita and Sarah, what do we have?
Yes, you did get one. Congratulations, Linda. Red, white, and black.
Phenomenal. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for guessing. So yes, we are surrounded by 3 different types of mangroves, but right now, the most prominent on the edge of the estuary will be our red mangroves. And you can see by the photo Dita is sharing that those are the ones right on the edge. Oh, that's a great shot, Dita. Thank you for bringing that. Yeah, that's exactly where we're standing right now. We've got this nice edge of the mangrove here. And if I could get any closer, I could show you the roots of the red mangrove. But first, I want you to know the difference between the 3. So look at these leaves. I don't know if you all can see my screen okay. We're working through some connection issues. Maybe it's the cloud cover, who knows. But check that out. So we have 3 different mangrove leaves here from all 3 different types, the red, the white, and the black. And they all look pretty different, right? So
you are frozen, Morgan. We see you, but not the leaves.
That's a bummer because they're awesome.
But we can hear you fine.
So our red mangrove leaves, they're bigger. We do red, pointy head to remember them. They come to a nice standard point. They're nice and evergreen, and they're typically bigger than our other 2 mangrove leaves. Our white mangrove leaves, they're rounder, they're smaller, and they have this little divot at the top. That's how you can know it's the white mangrove.
In less than 10 seconds with this revolutionary.
Wow. All right. Ooh, space. Guys, we're not going to say we're talking about mangroves. But the little acronym to remember our white mangroves is white, sweet delight. They have these little glands on their leaves that excrete sugar, which is really cool. And then our black mangroves, if you could see the leaf, I wish I could show it to you. They're really cool. They're narrow. They've got more of a sage color. And the way we remember the black mangrove, and I don't recommend doing this at home unless you're positive, black, lick the back, because they push all that salt out through their leaves, and it's a nice salty delight if you're into things like that. So we've got our 3 mangroves. The red's the most prominent. We're surrounded by it here. I wish I could get up close and personal with the roots, but they're really cool because as we saw in our, oh, we're gone.
Morgan, I'm just restarting your video. You've been
okay.
I apologize to the audience. We tech checked and everything was good, and she's back. Look at that.
Am I back?
Yep.
Okay. Woo! Thank you for bearing with us. We had great connection, and you know how it is. The satellites and I guess space coming into play is really messing up our connection this morning. So, like I said, if I could get you up close and personal with the roots of the red mangrove, you could see that they are extensive and long, and they are called prop roots. So they hold the tree up. And all of these mangroves they have to be really special because they have to survive being covered by water most of the time. Isn't that crazy? I mean, if you put your mom's tomato plant in a bathtub and you filled it with water and you drained it the next day, I'm sure the tomato plant would be dead. But these trees are really special. They can survive being submerged, intermittently with the tide. And that's how they're able to survive within our brackish areas here within the estuary. So really, really special trees. And on top of the roots being really cool, they build and they create these mangrove islands that you can see in the distance. So take a look at that. Beautiful, nice and connected. As we saw in our presentation, our mangrove islands, our mangrove forested estuary provides us a whole lot of storm protection. All right, and for all my Southwest Florida folks joining us today, we know how important that is, especially going into our hurricane season. And we're right in the brisk of it, right? We're coming into it nice and early. And oh, Dita's gonna share a nice image. Perfect. So you can see they're strong, they're interconnected, and it gives us that storm protection that we need. In addition to all the cool places that animals can hide within those roots, and even in the canopy as habitat. So meeting these mangroves today, you just get to see the full spread of what it can offer us. You can just see the wonderful prop roots, how they are submerged throughout the day, providing fish and other small aquatic animals places to live and hide and reproduce. And that's another thing about our estuaries is that they are nurseries. So it allows a lot of small and young animals to live and grow up here. Because look at all these cool places to hide out and survive and find food, right? And then they're gonna move out into the Gulf when they're ready. But another cool thing about mangroves that I didn't mention yet, we have it coming from the invisible arm. Yes, mangroves, they are super, super cool. And this can connect to us a little bit too. They're viviparous, which means they give live birth. No, this is not a green bean from Publix. No, this is not a seed pod. This is actually a ready to grow baby mangrove that once it gets dropped from the tree, speaking of dropped, we're seeing some fish action over here. Once it gets dropped from the tree, it will float around in our estuary for up to about a year. And then once it finds a nice place to land, it starts to grow and then build those beautiful properties and contribute to those greater mangrove islands that we just saw in the distance. So this little propagule is a big deal. And the fact that mangroves give live birth, what? I mean, that's insane. Thank you, invisible hand. So, like we just saw, mangroves are super cool. They give live birth, they give us storm protection. The animals in our estuary use them and they need them to survive here. And estuaries across the world are gonna look really different. And to have a mangrove forested estuary here in the United States is really, really special. So that's why we wanted to bring you out here to show you them. And I wish I could get you closer. And I hope our video is still not frozen because, man, the view out here is one of the best parts about coming down the Monument Trail and parking it here for the day just to go fishing and enjoy time, getting connected with the estuary. And that's really the whole point we came out here today, to show you where you can come on your own to enjoy. Oh, and Dita's got some nice images of propagules. Yes, they're so fun. And the propagules of the black and white mangrove look different, but the most prominent that we keep talking about are the red mangroves. And those are the ones that look like green beans.
And seeing a lot of birds.
Tons of birds. Yes. Oh my gosh. So another part of the mangroves that is really cool is that the roots that we saw and all those prop roots walking together, they come together to form habitat for a lot of aquatic animals, but the canopy, just like any other tree, provide habitat for a lot of birds. And that's kind of how Rookery Bay got its name. A rookery is just a place where animals gather, but in this case, it is birds all day. Bird is the word. So when we came down Monument Trail here today, you saw where to park, you saw, it's a short walk. I mean, today we were fighting some mosquitoes, but there's no big deal. But we ended up here. This is a great place to fish. We're holding up some nice patrons who are waiting for us to finish our live stream to go fishing, which is so cool. You can come out here, connect with the estuary, fish, you can recreate, you can watch the boats go by if fishing's not your thing. But you can also learn a little bit about our history on the Children's Monument. That's how this trail got its name. There's a monument here from the citizens and the students to commemorate them for saving Rookery Bay back in the 60s and 70s. So if that's something that interests you and you're a history buff like me, I would come down here just to read the monument. So there's a lot of reasons to come out here. Just get connected with Rookery Bay, rediscover us, go visit our learning center. But, you know, come out here, see some of the coolest habitats that we have and some of the most important ones that we protect every single day. So, oh yeah. Thank you for that street view, Dita. There's the monument, beautiful. And at our learning center, if you didn't want to bridge the mosquitoes coming out here, you can see an exact replica in our upstairs exhibit hall, and it gives you all of the information just about how Rookery Bay was saved. So it's a really special thing. And if Aubrey and Janine don't have anything to add, I think our field cam has had enough this morning. The satellites have just not been very kind to us, but we will accept questions as best as we can.
Thanks so much, Morgan. If you guys want to maybe turn off the camera, but stay connected, maybe it will like recirculate its superpowers. So I wanted to go ahead and share my screen for a second to give you guys another chance to put things in the Q&A box, because we have a lot more going on that we want to tell you about. So Morgan just recapped what an abundant habitat estuaries provide for our wildlife. But we have other programs that we want to share with you as well. Okay, so we have all kinds of in-person and virtual events. As you mentioned, the Environmental Learning Center is now open, so we hope that you'll come and visit us Monday through Friday from 9 to 4. And if you are far away and at home, you can join us virtually. So we have a whole series of programs. On the left side there, you actually will receive this in your confirmation or your thank you for attending email. So if you can't read the font on your tiny screen, and so we hope that you'll join us. Today we did Meet the Mangroves. We're gonna see the seagrass, browse the boardwalk, meander the mudflats, observe the oysters, and enjoy the beauty of the beach this summer as we rediscover Rookery Bay. Other events that we have on the right side of the screen are you can join us for a virtual trivia. That's gonna take place in August. In person, we have eco adventures. We have guided kayak tours and guided boat tours, and we're really, really excited after being closed for 14 months to be able to offer an in-person summer camp. So our Summer Institute for Marine Science is almost entirely sold out, but we do have some spaces available in our July dates. So go to our website, rookerybay.org/calendar to sign up for all of our programs. And I think it is time for questions. So what I'm going to do is stop my share. That's going to make everybody on the screen bigger. And let's see what's in the question box. All right, our most highly voted question, and Field Cam, try your camera again to see if it's any clearer. There's a question that I bet Morgan is going to be able to answer, and it is from Al. He says, how long is the mangrove trail from the boat put in to the estuary?
How do we look?
You have a beautiful hand.
Oh, there we go. Go ahead.
Are we here? Are we visible? Okay. So the monument trail from the boat launch to here is just about half a mile. So nice leisurely walk. It's lightly graveled, so wear shoes that can sustain that kind of walk. And it could be a little muddy here and there just throughout the summer, as we know it's been raining a lot lately. But just like any other hike, prepare, bring water. If you're coming to fish, bring all your gear. And that's something else we want to emphasize too, is like, yes, there's a trash can here, but man, leave no trace. When you're going out into the reserve and you're recreating just like we all love to do, take everything that you brought with you back. I mean, doesn't that just make the most sense? That way we can all enjoy it together. There's no remnants of human interference here, so that all the birds and the fish and the awesome wildlife can continue to enjoy it. So definitely
Morgan,
this spot in particular.
I love the saying, take only pictures, leave only footprints.
I love that too. Can we get that on a t-shirt?
Yes.
Great, I love that. But yeah, just about half a mile.
Our next one has to do a little bit more curious about those propagules. So you mentioned we pulled up the images of the red propagule. Could you talk a little bit about the white and black mangroves and maybe what the differences are between their propagules?
Sure. So the red mangrove propagule, I wish I still had it. There's a ton in the water behind me. Those are the ones that look like the green bean. And they all pretty much have the same function, is to spread their genetic code throughout the estuary and then propagate somewhere else. So the black mangrove propagule is much smaller. It almost looks like an open book. And then the white mangrove it's almost like, I don't even know what I call it, like almost pumpkin seed size, but it's kind of got a cone shape to it. So if you didn't know what you were looking for, you might have walked all over Black and Rookery Bay or just going along the coastline. But yeah, so they all kind of have the same function, and they all give live birth. So all of those propagules are ready to grow mangrove trees. But the difference between the three mangroves is a little bit more specific. So the red mangroves are called salt excluders. So I said they can, look at this, they're submerged a lot at a time. And this water is brackish because we're in an estuarine system. So we're fresh and saltwater meet, boom, that's our estuary. And so they don't like the salt water. They're not even going to try to take it up in their roots. And then the black and the white mangroves, they actually take the salt in and then they push it out through their leaves. So they're extruders. So like I said, black, lick the back. You knew it was a black mangrove leaf and you licked it. That salt is from the water that it took up into its system and pushed the salt out of. So it's pretty cool, just how different they are. And genetically, red, white, and black mangroves are nothing alike. They just share those characteristics of being able to be submerged, handle this salty habitat, which is crazy for a plant. So that's pretty cool. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. And there's a kind of a follow-up question. Our attendee today, Amy, asks, what are the mangrove brown stems that stick up out of the water from the ground?
Oh, that's a great question, Amy. So the brown stems are actually the snorkels. That's a kind of fun word we like to use for our black mangroves. So the red mangroves have those beautiful prop roots that hold it out of the water. Well, gas exchange needs to happen for our black mangroves too. So these little pneumatophores, that's the fancy word for them, or dead man's fingers, they're also called. They come out of the ground so that when the tide goes out, they can do gas exchange. So they look like these little twigs popping out. They look like someone shoved them in the ground, but really that's a part of their root system that came up. And then that way they can exchange oxygen when the water is up. So that's black mangrove.
Do mangroves only grow in salt water?
No, they're one of those plants that are able to. And again, this is a brackish system. So oftentimes in our estuary, the salinity fluxes. So how salty the water is could be really, really high, and the mangroves you find in both. So yeah, they don't need to, they don't prefer the salt. They're just able to survive in it. They're tolerant.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if we find a propagule, like one of those green beans, I can just pull it out of the ground and bring it home? Or is there any rules or anything with those if I really want to get up close and personal with a mangrove tree?
If you want to get up close and personal, we say, look, don't touch. But yeah, our mangroves are protected. So if I came out here to fish and I thought, man, this branch is in my way, I want to cast over there, man, I need to get over there for the fish. I just know they're over there. Well, I can't come out here with a hedge trimmer and cut them down. They're protected species. You need a special permit and training from the state to even trim them. So if they were starting to overgrow in an area that became problematic, we could not, we're not trained in that. And why would you want to cut down a mangrove tree? I mean, it provides all those special things for the wildlife and us that we talked about, like storm protection and habitat and all the above. So yeah, don't be taking the propagules. That's the foundation, right, for these mangrove islands to keep growing and spreading and connecting. So yeah.
Cool. Well, to our audience out there, we're almost ready to wrap up. So here's your last chance to ask your question of the panel. And I see one remaining question that can be for anyone that's listening. What kind of birds use our mangroves to nest? I mean, we are called Rookery Bay, so there's got to be someone out there, right?
Absolutely. So a lot of different animals will come, and not even just nest, they'll just come to rest or roost. So you can see, I mean, they're so thick, you might not be able to see a nest right now, but at night, if you go to like a rookery, like a mangrove rookery island, you can see all of these birds like pelicans, herons, egrets, just coming in to rest for the night, and hingas, cormorants, just a whole host of birds that would use these islands to, kind of recharge or even reproduce when that time of year comes for them. So tons and tons of birds.
Oof, Morgan, do you want a break from mangroves? And we'll talk a little bit about some of the fish. What kind of fish utilize those roots as either a nursery or a foraging ground? Especially maybe if I want to catch one and eat one.
Ooh, see, that's a great question. That's a huge part of this area here at the end of Monument Trail. People love to come fish because there's a ton of fish you can catch. A lot of fish in our estuary, like snook, snapper, they like to grow up here. And, you know, even some of the adults will come in here and use it as structure so that they can feed. I mean, there's tons of food to be had all around this area. So I would say snook, snapper, juveniles of pretty much any kind of fish that can survive in this brackish mix, even juvenile sharks. This is not a joke. At our learning center, you can see on the bridge, juvenile bull sharks swimming back and forth, using our mangrove habitat to grow up in. Isn't that crazy? So you can see bait fish all the way up to juvenile sharks. That's the fish range that we see. And Dita, if you have any more specifics in terms of species, we just saw a few gobies, we saw mohara, just utilizing our mangroves, and that list can go on and on, I think.
Well, it looks like we have one more clarifying question, and I'll invite anyone to answer this on the panel. And this person, Roger, wants to know about how the mangroves are distributed, specifically the red, the black, and the white. So is there some kind of an example about which one lives closest to the water and which one lives furthest away or in drier land, or how is it that you can identify them based on where they are?
So this is a point of discussion because, you know, nature loves to just make exceptions on these rules. So from what I understand and kind of what you can see here, the red mangroves are the most prominent on the water's edge. They're really good at handling that brackish mix, keeping that salt out. So we would most often see our red mangroves on the edges. And then the white and the blacks, gosh, they can kind of go back and forth. So we did see some pneumatophores of our black mangrove. So typically you would probably see our black mangroves next in succession as you go up in elevation. They can handle that salty mix too, but they bring it in and push it out. And then typically our white mangroves would be at our highest elevation, but that isn't always the case. And we just have a smaller amount of white mangroves in general here because of our red mangrove being so dominant. So, you know, there's rules of thumb that you can kind of use to determine what you're looking at based on where you are. But most often than not, if you're on the water's edge, you're looking at a red mangrove. That would be my best advice.
Cool. Well, that is all the time that we have for today, but I wanted to thank the audience for joining today. We are in a hybrid version of, now that we're reopened, we're doing in-person programs, but we're still sometimes doing virtual programs, and we want to know how we're doing. So when you click end or leave the meeting, you will see a box pop up on your screen that asks you for a few minutes of your time to tell us how we're doing. So our survey is designed to find out where you're located. It's really cool to see the map of where everyone is, because you may be far enough away that you wouldn't have otherwise driven to the Environmental Learning Center if this was an in-person program. So those numbers are really important. We also want to know who's watching with you. Do you have students out there? Are you retired? And then also we want to know ways to improve. So if you have ideas for future programs, all that kind of stuff. So that's going to automatically pop up on your screen. So please fill that out. We do look at it, and we want to know the good, the bad, the ugly. Yeah, I know the tech issues pop up sometimes and not others. So if you are a tech expert and you have suggestions on how we can improve, please share. So I'm going to throw into the chat box the link to sign up for all of our upcoming programs, because we hope to see you again. So our next EDscursion is scheduled for next Friday, and we hope that you'll join us then. So until next time, we will be out in the estuary enjoying, exploring, adventuring, and learning more about mangroves. Bye-bye.
Take you up on that.
Bye-bye.